Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to have so much fun today because we're going to be talking about sales. I know, everybody always cringes when they hear that word, and we always end up making it a really fun discussion. And I remind people that if you are in business, you are in sales. That's the key thing to remember about this, folks. And so you can either make it something that works for you or something that every time you're thinking about it, you're like, oh my God, I have to do this again. So joining us today is Kristina Jaramillo, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about this. So welcome, Kristina.
Thank you for having me, Deb. I appreciate it.
Great. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will dive into this. So Kristina Jaramillo is president of Personal ABM and Stop the Sales Drop. She has a reputation for building strategic social programs that drive sales, cycles, and revenue. In fact, she's featured in LinkedIn's own Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to LinkedIn, and her articles can also be found on Forbes, Marketing Profs, Salesforce.com, Sales and Marketing Management Magazine, CMO Magazine, CMO Council, and many others. And she's a key instructor for Marketing Profs ABM courses. While her partner, Eric Gruber, is responsible for the firm's strategy and the team's content developers, Kristina manages the execution. Through her focus on building personal relationships with one-to-one communications that speak to specific decision makers and influencers, her team builds top-to-bottom engagement, relationships, and trust with previously untouchable enterprises. It's through these personal communications that her team reversed no positions, saved accounts, and created wins with accounts that were unresponsive to sales and marketing messaging for over 5 years. So again, Kristina, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like if someone was reading my life story. Thank you.
I know, it's always fun to hear these bios read, right? So let's do a little bit more in depth about that. Tell us how it is that you discovered that this is your passion in life.
As you can tell, the bio you read for me, I started working with a public relations content marketer expert kind of thing. He started actually article marketing and PR, and then we've evolved from there. He's my business partner, and I was helping him promote his business and doing his marketing for his business. And I said, we should be on LinkedIn. It's something that's, coming around, and it's really good professionally for us. And he's like, I don't have time for that social platform. I'm too busy with client work. If you can make it work for us, then we'll talk about it.
You go do it for me.
Yeah. And then it kind of just evolved from there. And we've been doing our strategies, personal ABM around LinkedIn and, taking it in other social platforms and other email and live conversations. We've been working as partners now for 10 years. So
great.
I was working for him, and now we're partners. So
I love it. I love it. Well, your company is Personal ABM. So what does ABM stand for?
Okay, so it's personal account-based marketing. We put a personal spin on account-based marketing. We see that a lot of ABM or account-based marketing and sales approaches are pretty much campaign focused. So they might be brand awareness and lead gen, where since we put that personal touch on it, we're going after named accounts. So top 10, 20 accounts that that you either want to win, protect because they might be at risk of losing them. They might be getting a little too, the relationship might be on the rocks, or expand an account that you want just to, have a bigger footprint in.
Right. And I love that you do this using social, because, it is, 5-10 years ago, people said, LinkedIn, it's only for getting jobs. Facebook, it's only for showing cute cat videos. And they're here to stay. it's the big guys are here to stay. The little guys come, they go. And people ask me, why aren't you on this, and this? And I'm like, because it's not worth my time to learn those platforms and set things up because they'll go away. But even you and I met on LinkedIn.
Yes.
That was, and it was funny. We were talking about that before the program. How on earth did we meet? And somehow we got connected on LinkedIn. And that's the key, is to find the people that you want to connect with and connect with them.
Absolutely. But I think that has to be on a relevant way. So I have to
Right.
give you a
It can't
message
just
or
be, hey,
let's connect. Yeah, we know
right.
so-and-so, let's connect.
Mhm.
Yeah, it has to be a personal message, hence
Mhm.
personal ABM.
Mhm.
And personal is different than personalization. So for me,
Mhm.
personalization means you put in my name
Right.
into a message, or you put
Mhm.
in my company or my
Mhm.
industry. Personal is you actually know about me, you know about
Mhm.
my actual company, what's going on in maybe
Mhm.
my department, in my
Mhm.
organization, in my world.
Mhm.
Whether it's you're pulling stuff from my profile, or you're
Right.
pulling stuff from the news, or you're
Mhm.
just being as relevant as you
Mhm.
possibly can to that actual individual
Mhm.
human.
Right. Yeah, I love it when I get a LinkedIn request that says, we can show you how to do social media. And I usually respond and say, why don't you go read my profile and then contact me again? And of course, I never hear from them because they clearly did not read my profile.
I get those all the time. I actually got one yesterday where someone invited me to connect based on a comment I made on a thread.
Ah,
We had both commented on the thread, and
mhm,
he's invited me to connect to the discussion was about products, so software
mhm,
demos or discovery
mhm,
calls, and what we should call them, if we should call them demos, if we should call them discovery
mhm,
calls, whatever. It was just lingo. So he reaches out to me and invite to connect and says, we have a solution that
mhm,
helps you deliver a better
mhm.
demo. And so he's pitching me in the invite to connect.
Right.
And so I went back to him and I said, first of all, I'm not your ideal client. I
Mhm.
do not offer software. I do not sell software. I work
Right.
with software companies,
Mhm,
but that's not what I sell.
mhm,
Secondly, if you looked at my comment, actually read what I wrote about,
mhm,
it's about selling value, or not selling value, sharing value,
mhm.
and starting with value first. And then I
Which
would
is
have
the
connected.
opposite of what you did, dude.
Yeah, I know. And of course, unfortunately, I mean, I did it nicely to him. I
Mhm.
tried to point it out to him. Of course, I didn't get respond back, but
Right.
it was, if you're going to pitch me in the first
Mhm.
message, there's no way. There's
Right.
no way it's going to
Right.
happen. And if you want to
Mhm,
reach out to business owners, C-level executives,
mhm,
any kind of decision maker,
mhm,
and you're pitching them within the first
mhm.
interaction, they go running for the hills.
Right.
So I
Right.
don't understand
Yeah.
what's going on.
And unfortunately, that's, the vast majority of people now are doing it that way. And we mentioned one of the key words in your profile, and that's relationships. It is about building those relationships. And you've done a lot with LinkedIn. So talk to us about how we can connect with, say, a C-level person. And this is not as in sea level or mountain. I have had people ask me that. And
Oh
I'm like,
no.
no, it's not ocean. It's C as in CEO, CMO, CFO, the C's, or it can be senior management. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it's, and so how can we, say we want to talk with someone at Chick-fil-A. I'm here in Atlanta. So so how would I use LinkedIn to connect with somebody at a management level position at say Chick-fil-A?
Well, it has to be relevant. You have to lead with
Mm-hmm.
relevance to them. So I'm talking about relevance on your profile, on
Right.
your invites to connect,
Mm-hmm.
on your nurture
Mm-hmm.
message. So for example, for the past 4 months, I had my team kind of do
Mm-hmm.
an unofficial study. They were looking at sales and marketing and leadership
Mm-hmm.
teams, their profiles, their presence, what they were
Mm-hmm.
doing. And we found a lot of them weren't being personal. They were sending out this blanket messaging,
Right.
or templated
Mm-hmm.
messaging, or resharing generic content and not putting any value in it. So because this is happening, you have to go through the noise. You have to
Right.
kind of cut through it. So if a leadership or a decision maker, or anyone in a top ranking person
Mm-hmm.
sees a fill in the blank template,
Mm-hmm.
um, they're going to automatically ignore that. So
Right.
what I've seen is top people that are sales and marketing
Mm-hmm.
leaders are being intentional with every communication.
Mm-hmm.
So they're understanding that you have one chance
Mm-hmm.
to make that impression before you get ignored, or um, no one connects with you, no
Mm-hmm.
one does anything. So
Mm-hmm.
one wrong interaction, you can lose all chances of moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've seen and what my team has seen is that traditional sales and marketing speaks at industries. Account-based sales and marketing often speaks at the actual account. So maybe in a specific, sector. And sales in many cases is going to create a list of accounts they want, and they'll get some company insights to lead with, for their invites, for their calls or emails, but then they speak to everyone at the company in the same way. So they're, again, going back to speaking at accounts. What we like to do is make that human connection. So we'll have to take the personal account-based approach is where you speak to the human buyers within the accounts that you want to win, protect, or expand. So what I've seen, either social, email, live conversations, most salespeople in general are focusing on 4 things. They're focusing on how their solution works, what the benefits are, what the business case is, and why they should be trusted.
Right.
So they go in that order roughly. I mean, sometimes they tweak it, but high performing salespeople address them in the opposite order. So they are talking about trust and credibility.
They
with
build that relationship first.
Right away. Yes, exactly. So you have to build the business case first. Your product and brand are kind of distractions decision makers there. If they wanted to learn about they would Google you, right? They would do their own homework. If you want them to engage with them, you have to give them a way to see that you're a trusted resource for trusted partner, not a resource.
Right.
So that when you're talking about features and benefits or why they should work with you or me, that's just white noise. Someone that I like to follow, his name is James Harris. He's from Seraph Science. And there's a great quote that he likes to say, and I use it a lot because it's so true, and I wish I had said it. But if you have neither trust nor value, you're going to get ignored. So that's why many sales and marketing teams and organizations you're seeing unresponsiveness. If you lack trust, the C-suite is going to seek other resources for validation. If you lack value, the C-suite will only, socially engage with you. But if you tick both the trust and the value boxes, the C-suite will engage with you online and offline. And at the end of the day, that's what you're looking to do.
Right. And I think so many people forget that the C-level person is very busy. And I don't care if that's running a business out of their basement or, a business that has hundreds of thousands of employees. They're very busy people. And so that's why it has to be relevant to them. And one of the things that you said really, really struck me, and that's that your profile has to also address why you're contacting them. And so if I'm saying, hey, I want to work with you on, how you can improve your HR function. That's not me. So I'm just making this up randomly as I go. If they go from that request to connect to my profile, it had better say helping people to learn HR or whatever, but if it's something totally different, they're going to think, wait a minute, I went to the wrong person.
Yep.
Click off to somebody else.
Yep, absolutely. And one thing that I noticed too is a lot of sales and marketing people, and even some business owners and entrepreneurs, they talk about what they do on a day-to-day basis and what their tactical role is or my favorite is the sales achievements of, I've hit quota 6 quarters in a row. I made President's Club, and that's great. If you're selling coaching and selling sales training, that's fantastic. But if you're trying to sell maybe a piece of software or, some other kind of solution or product or service, and you invite me to connect and I see you're talking all about your sales, I'm automatically thinking I'm a number.
Right.
I'm another person that you need to tick off your list so that you can hit quota this quarter.
Right.
So it's kind of, I think you have to show value wherever you go. And that includes your presence on social, especially on LinkedIn.
Right. And, one of the things that is absolutely critical is that initial message. I hate it when I'm sitting there doing LinkedIn and I'm like, oh, I want to connect with this person. And if I'm on my phone, it just goes boom. It doesn't give me the chance to personalize it. And, because I always like to say, hey, Kristina, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. We just met at, or, I saw that you posted this great article that really resonated with me. I'd love to learn more about it or something. You want to personalize that again, because, I'm almost never going to connect with somebody that just sends me the request to connect. I've got over 3,000 connections. I need a reason that I'm going to connect with you. Even if it's a stupid reason, give me a reason.
Yeah, because then if you're pitching me right away, I know I'm not going to connect with you because I know it's going to be going to be an inbox is going to be full of, get on a call, let's get on a demo.
Right.
Or you're going to just try to pitch me as much as possible, and my feed just going to be, cluttered. So I just automatically ignore. And I know if I'm doing that as a business owner, I'm sure other business owners and definitely C-level people are not they don't have time for that.
Right. The only time where I've seen an exception to that is when they've specifically asked and said, hey, we're looking for someone who can do X. But you still have to go very carefully into it. It's not that I'm the car salesman that's going to drive the car up to you and say, you got to buy this car, because people are like, okay, no. You still want to get to know them a little bit before you say, I might have a great solution for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You wouldn't go up to someone at an actual in-person networking event. Remember, LinkedIn is a social networking. It's really a business networking site. You wouldn't say, here's my card. Let's get on a demo call, or let's talk about my business. Me. You would introduce yourself. You would get to know the person. You would see if you were even a fit. You would you would learn some stuff. You would learn insights about the person.
Right. And as we've been saying, then those follow-up messages, those are so important. I've opened up my LinkedIn and was looking at this one, and I mean, I have so many that are great examples of what not to do. And so I love this one. First of all, I always know that they don't know me when they call me Deborah. Now that is the name that I use on my profile. But if they know me, they know I go by Deb. And so that's kind of the first little thing. And so she starts by saying, you're super busy, so I'm going to make this super quick. And then this message is 9-10 paragraphs long. So that's not super quick. And because of my branding, I have said, in LinkedIn that I work for Deb Creer. And then everything else kind of flows under that. And so then that's always the dead giveaway too, that they're cutting and pasting, because she says, we've helped over 100 businesses like Deb Creer. Our clients are generating an extra yada, 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 yada. And then there's all these links. I like this. I didn't get down this far before. I promise to be somewhat useful, and I might even tell you my favorite joke. Wait a minute. She didn't tell me a joke. Well, bummer. But she says,
somewhat useful.
Yeah, somewhat useful. But yeah, I mean, think it really does come back to exactly what you said. What will we say in person? And I'm not going to say, hey, Kristina, I'm going to be super quick, and then 5 minutes later still be talking to you. Now if you were polite enough to put up with that, bless you. But more than likely, you would have said, Bob, I need to go talk to Bob.
I need to go to the bathroom. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, they're starting the food line. Anything and everything to escape from me, right? And and that really is the key to developing that relationship. We all know that, and we've been told that we need to turn the conversation back to the person we're talking to. So, I might say, hey, I do this and this. 2 or 3 sentences worth, and then, Kristina, tell me about what you do, or ask questions. I mean, even if it's just, oh my gosh, what about this weather? Or can you believe we're still having to wear masks? Or whatever the conversation might be. But, you take it back to where you're just chatting.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And usually you want to know what the other person's name is and learn about them first. So you should lead with that in any kind of message or invite or whatever you want to call it. Any kind of outreach you're doing has to be about them first. And then maybe you can slip yourself in there at the end.
Right.
If it's appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, it comes back to the direct mail pieces that we get that are addressed to occupant. Occupant or resident. Sorry, I'm never going to pay attention to them. It's just, it really is one of those things. Or when somebody calls, you get a cold call and they totally butcher my name. Now, most people mispronounce it. So I'm kind of fine with that. I mean, most people say crier. We say Creer. So if they say crier, that's, and people that I've known for years still say crier. So, I don't, but I love it if they can't, somehow to get my first name wrong. I'm like, okay, that's not a complicated one. But yeah, it's, again, it just takes a little bit of time to find some of these things out. And if you're really trying to reach a C-suite level person, you had darn well better do your research on them.
Absolutely, absolutely. You better know what they're into,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on in their organization. What does their profile say
Mm-hmm.
about them? Because sometimes they give you clues, and you have to be like a detective and kind of
Mm-hmm.
figure out what they're talking
Right.
about and what's important to them. What
Mm-hmm.
are they sharing on LinkedIn?
Mm-hmm.
What are they commenting on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn? I mean, we all have access to Google.
Mm-hmm.
We can look the person up. We can look their
Right.
organization up. We can see
Mm-hmm.
if there's a press release we can
Mm-hmm.
integrate somewhere. We can
Mm-hmm.
see if they were quoted in an article or something. Something. You have to do
Mm-hmm.
your homework. And if I get another message to me
Mm-hmm.
that spells my name without the A at the end of Christina,
Ah,
I'm
yes.
that
Mm-hmm.
it's just these little
Mm-hmm.
nuances
Right.
that are important.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you're not leading with value and you're not
Mm-hmm.
being personally relevant to that
Mm-hmm.
person and you didn't show me that you took the time to get to know
Mm-hmm.
me a little bit before
Right.
you asked me to take
Mm-hmm.
2 seconds out of my time to read your
Mm-hmm.
message, automatically I'm out the door.
Right. Right.
Moving on.
And one of the things that I found that works well is to compliment them. All of the big metro areas have newspapers that do lists, and if they don't have, say, I used to live in Denver, so we had the Denver Business Journal, and so if you don't have something like that, then there's obviously Forbes lists. There's all sorts of different lists, and as you said, you spend 5 minutes on Google and you can find something out. I mean, I used to love doing that. I would get those lists every week from the Business Journal, and I would go through. Now, it was usually the top 10 or 20. So it wasn't a ton, but I go through and I kind of, okay, this one looks interesting. This one looks interesting. Research them a little bit more, but then I'd reach out to them on LinkedIn and I would say, oh my gosh, congratulations on being named to, yada, yada, yada. And because like you said, for one thing, that immediately shows that I did at least a little bit of research about them. But then I would say, it's so great that you made that list just 5 years after you started your company, or again, something a little bit more. And it's really hard for them to ignore you at that point, because that just seems kind of rude. And so, yeah, it's just, it really is a little bit of time to find out something that's relevant. It's 1 or 2 sentences, folks. We're not talking about telling them, I know that when you were in 4th grade you owned a dog named Skippy.
Yeah, we're not getting creepy about it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's funny because I tell people, really read their LinkedIn profile. And it's okay to tell them, hey, I saw on your LinkedIn profile,
That's different.
whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
because then they know you're not the creepy stalker person.
yeah. Yeah, and I think what I've seen, especially with business owners, with
Mm-hmm.
VPs,
Mm-hmm.
presidents,
Mm-hmm.
people that are these key decision
Mm-hmm.
makers, they're not interested in a product. They're not
Right.
interested in a solution.
Mm-hmm.
They are operating on a strategic
Mm-hmm.
value kind of
Mm-hmm.
relationship. So you need to give them valuable
Mm-hmm.
insights, valuable content. So that means you're giving them stats, you're giving them
Mm-hmm.
facts, you're giving them an argument, a
Mm-hmm.
logical argument
Mm-hmm.
for change, like a reason to
Right.
change. So you need to give them that reason to get
Mm-hmm.
involved in a social email or live discussion with you,
Mm-hmm.
because they have plenty of people
Mm-hmm.
around them that will agree with them and yes them to
Right.
death.
Mm-hmm.
They need someone that's going to challenge them. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
big proponent of the challenger sale. I'm not sure
Right.
if you're familiar with that. But the challenger sale is a way to teach for differentiation, lead with value, and
Mm-hmm.
just get people to think about something in a new way,
Ah.
to create that sense of
Mm-hmm.
urgency.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's, if you can answer a few questions to yourself before you
Mm-hmm.
reach out to someone, like,
Mm-hmm.
can you bring something different to the table? Can you
Right.
challenge this business owner or
Mm-hmm.
this C-level executive and show them a different way of doing things?
Mm-hmm.
Are you bringing a new perspective to the
Mm-hmm.
table? Just the simple fact that you sent them an invite to connect is not going to do it. Or you
Right.
sent them an article,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it sounds like everybody else they've
Mm-hmm.
already seen. So, you're not the first person that
Mm-hmm.
they've had an invite from. So you better make it
Right.
relevant. You better
Mm-hmm.
make it something that's pertinent to them.
Right. Right. Well, and one of the big things is to have communicated with them in advance. And I don't mean communicate as in like email or things like that. I mean, you see that they've posted on LinkedIn, comment on it. And this is not the, ooh, good
Great job.
article, good point, great. Oh, I know. It's like, really, did you even bother to read the article, or did you just type good job, good job? And so take the time to go to their profiles, and because they're LinkedIn shows you everything that they have been doing. It shows their activities, and and for one, I always tell people, do that first of all because it's going to show you if they're even active on LinkedIn. If they don't post, if they don't do anything, then you're not going to get their attention, because they're not there. Their profile might be fairly current, but if they're not actively doing something at least once a week, that it's probably a waste of time.
Yeah, I think, but I also see that I think C-levels or entrepreneurs might be, I don't know if lurking is the right word, but they're actively listening in the
Right.
background. So they might not be engaging with
Mhm.
content, but they might be reading it.
Right.
So they might not be clicking on a like because they
Mhm.
either don't care to
Mhm.
do so or don't see the point.
Mhm.
But they're not interested, at least what I've seen, is that these people aren't interested in making more friends. They have plenty of
Right.
social
Mhm.
invites to keep them busy.
Mhm.
They're coming to LinkedIn and they're coming to read different things, to
Mhm.
learn, and to just to get better at their
Mhm.
business, to improve their business.
Right.
So what they're truly interested in is learning how much value you can bring to their
Mhm.
organization. And we don't mean showing them the product or showing them the benefits of
Mhm.
working with you or showing them solutions or
Mhm.
just showing your features and benefits. Those are, I don't like to talk about those too much,
Mhm.
but we mean what you bring to them both
Mhm.
personally and inside of
Mhm.
their, executive meetings
Right.
to their actual bottom line.
Mhm.
How are you helping them? So
Mhm.
we can do this through profiles. We can do this through
Mhm.
content, whether it's an article
Mhm.
or a blog post. We can do this through messaging. We need to show these decision makers and these really busy executives that we understand their situation.
Mhm.
Um, we need to show them gaps that they might not have considered and the impacts of their company in different
Mhm.
levels. So these gaps might impact the company itself, different
Mhm.
divisions within the company, different ranks,
Mhm.
employees, all the way down to operations, finance, and
Mhm.
customer level. So if you can show that you understand some of that or a lot of that, and you can share more insights and
Mhm.
focus on your interactions with the C-suite, then they are going
Mhm.
to open up. They're going to let you inside of their business and
Right.
then provide them more insight. If they see you as someone that they can learn from and grow
Mhm.
from, then it'll make it a lot easier for
Right.
them to want to engage with them, to
Mhm.
build that one-on-one relationship.
Mhm.
Um, and the real relationships are created that way, and I'm sure you're aware. Uh, One of the things I've heard a lot is that a lot of sales and marketing leaders or business owners talking about wanting a relationship, wanting to be with, how do they get in front of these strategic decision makers?
Mhm.
How do they break down the doors to talk to these
Mhm.
people? What they do is but instead what they're doing is they're breaking their engagement activities down into different elements
Mm.
and delivered into
Mhm.
different resources. So they're basically being tactical.
Mhm.
They're sending out emails, they're sending out content,
Mhm.
but it's not giving from a C-suite or decision maker or small business owners, from their perspective, it doesn't have integrity. It's lacking that
Right.
integrity. It's lacking the relevance.
Mhm.
So C-suite's experience of your hard work is really what comes back down to it. It's
Mhm.
they need to see that you, across your email, social, face-to-face, and phone conversations, that you're all these different touch points, that
Right.
you are relevant to them,
Mhm.
and not be so tactical, but actually
Mhm.
strategic.
Mhm. Right. And you've used the word value several times, and that really is the key, is to be providing that value. And it might not even benefit you directly. I was telling you before the program started that you're my 6th interview this week. We're getting everything done for October. And, I interview, everybody, I love what I do. This is so much fun. But, I'm sitting there last night and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I interviewed 2 guys that I really need to introduce. So I pop them an email and I said, I interviewed both of you on, the Business Power Hour this week, and I think the 2 of you would benefit from knowing each other. Yeah, that was, whether it goes any further, whether, any of those things. But if it does, that'd be great. I may never know. I mean, I don't, who knows if they'd tell me. But that was kind of that little extra value of just connecting people. And I think that's one of the things that people forget about is we're always in it. You said me, we're in it for me, and so it was going to be, okay, well, if I introduce you and I introduce you, then you're going to be happy and you're going to send me business and no, it was just here, you guys go. And if there's great synergy between you, that's great. If not, well, yeah, we tried. And I think the really good salespeople are the ones who do that. They know how to add that little extra bit of value that might not benefit them at all, but people remember it. They're going to go back and go, oh my gosh, I remember Kristina introduced us. And then you've kind of got that good little tick mark next to your name. And so that's where that all comes in.
Yeah, you're sending the positive energy out into the world, and it comes back to you.
Right.
It comes back to you.
Yeah. It's interesting. People talk about karma, and usually they're talking about it in a bad way. Like, oh my God, that's going to bite you. Karma's going to get you. There's good karma. And if you believe in that, I mean, there's, or maybe it is that, somebody just remembers, oh, hey, that was really nice, that you did that. And so just be thinking about those things. What can you provide? Maybe in somebody's, when they're posting on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever, and they're saying, we've, been trying to meet somebody at such and such company. Okay, maybe you can introduce them. And again, you're not going to get anything out of it. That's the key to remember. This is not, somebody used this expression the other day, and it's been a long time since I heard it, and I had to laugh. This is not tit for tat. And that's,
right.
that is the key.
Yeah, it's not what's in it for me all the time, because
Right.
when you go about relationship building that way, it might work for a little bit, but it's going to eventually stop working. Right. So if you could get ahead of it before it stops working, that would be great.
Right.
So I think leading with value is the key.
Right. And I've certainly been at a lot of networking events where it really is that, they'll take their business card and they get ready to hand it to you. But they got a death grip on it. And, and it's, what are you going to give me before I'm going to let go of this card? And I'm like, oh, whatever. I don't need you that bad, dude.
Yeah, seriously. If you can't part with that 50-cent piece of paper or if whatever it costs, then yeah.
And then there's the opposite. I've told this story several times where, I was at a big networking event in Denver, and, group of us were standing there talking, and this woman who none of us knew rushed up to us, hands us all business cards, and gets ready to rush off. I mean, that's all she did, handed us business cards. We're like, what? Go back here.
What just happened?
And, and she did. She came back, and we said, what's going on? I bet my husband I couldn't give away my entire box of business cards. And then she left. I mean, that was it.
Oh, if that was a bet that I would have had, I would have just thrown them in the trash and said I won.
Yeah. I'm like, whatever. And of course, but that's where they all ended up, right? Because we didn't look, we didn't care. There, and actually I think we did. And I think we looked at it and went, okay, remember her. And I talked about having that positive little tick mark. Well, she had a little negative tick mark. And the sad thing was, it would have taken her a minute to have said, hey, I am new to this group. I've got this bet with my husband that I'm trying to give away all my business cards, but let me tell you a little bit about myself before I give you my business card. Right?
To see if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I totally agree with you. I think people are just jumping the gun because me. I need to get myself out there, and it doesn't work with people that have been in business and have been around for a long time. I don't know if it's because they're jaded or because that's not how they view relationships. I'm not really sure where that comes into play, but
and of course we thought it was funny, but it was like, what the heck, but you looked and there were her business cards laying all over everywhere. I mean, I doubt that anybody took one home. So her, $9 box of business cards, she wasted $9, but that was very interesting. Well, as we do this, we're in what I think is probably the middle of the pandemic. We've been doing this 6-ish months.
Let's hope it's the
and
middle.
I'm guessing we got another 6 months of rough time. What, are there things that you see happening with how people are, are sales dropping, are sales rising? I mean, all these various things. What do you see that's been happening during this time?
I think it's all over the place. I think people are either in panic mode and they're frozen, or they're so they're just going about different tactics on LinkedIn. I'm going to get into that in a second. And I think there's people that are just doing really well because they were already prepared for this and they've been virtual for a while.
Right.
And then there's other people that are just like in a holding pattern, waiting for this to pass. And it's already been, what did you say, 6 months? What I lost track now. 7?
I know.
7,
we were
maybe
talking
8?
before. What day is this? Where are we?
I don't know. Exactly. Yeah. So what I actually, when you brought that up, there was a study that LinkedIn did, I think it was the second quarter of 2020, that showed about 44% of organizations are seeing a significant drop in responsiveness on social and email channels since the start of C19, and the study was actually blaming it on C19. And I think it might have something to do with that, but I think even more importantly, it's because buyers still want to engage with experts,
right,
that can help them with their current and future challenges, even if they can't buy right now, or even if they're looking at, 6 months from now, 3 months from now, whatever it is. They want to build relationships, what we've been talking about this whole time, on value.
right.
So I think the actual reason for the unresponsiveness is that everyone has kind of been forced into using digital channels like LinkedIn,
Right.
because, no live meetings, no face-to-face, no dinners, no conferences, trade shows, the whole gamut. So you have more people competing on this one little digital platform, not little, but, one platform, and pushing out messages, and then just hoping that something's going to stick. So people are just pushing out more invites, more content, more nurture
More
messages. Yes, more ugh. I like that one. I like that one. So it's just white noise, no relevance.
Right.
If you actually look at other people and executives, how they're engaging on LinkedIn, they're not doing that.
Right.
So there must be a reason that they're not doing it, because, they know that there's no value in it. You know, Going back to that study I had my team kind of unofficially do during the pandemic, the start of the pandemic, we, for a week, I think we looked at 100 to 200 profiles a day, and we spanned all across business to business, from CEOs, founders, CMOs, sales and marketing. And then we did a couple of different industries, so that it wasn't just kind of biased. We did professional services, tech, manufacturing, supply chain, healthcare, and financial services industry. So we kind of covered a lot of, space. We found something that was kind of disturbing. It was that 95% or so of the profiles were showing no relevance to the key accounts that they wanted to win, to key customers that they were trying to maybe protect, because customer retention is a big thing now, and it's always going to be, I think, now, or even accounts that they wanted to expand. So I figured we were maybe seeing improvement as time went on. I was hoping, this was happening. We did this in about April or May.
Right.
So we're hoping that improvements become as people becoming more reliant on social and new digital channels to sell. If they were an in-person seller and they were forced to digital virtual selling. But unfortunately, the irrelevance trend has kind of continued, and it's kind of gotten, I think, worse, unfortunately. So, I talked about it earlier. We saw a lot of salespeople just talking about themselves, hitting their quotas, hitting their numbers.
Right.
How do you build trust like that? I mean, how is that you?
Yeah, I
how
really
can you
don't
do that?
care that somebody met their second quarter goals during this pandemic time.
Yeah,
That's good for
fantastic.
you, but whoopee.
Yeah, and how's it going to help me? And I think what a lot of people are also, their profiles still look like resumes instead of selling tools, value tools, marketing tools, whatever buzzword you want to put on it. And they're focused on what they've done in the past. These are my tactics that I had to do on an everyday basis, or these are my responsibilities, right? Instead of talking about their present and the future. Like, so how are they working with clients now? How are they helping them now?
Right.
How are they moving business forward for their clients? What are they seeing in the industry? And, showing that they know what they're talking about, as opposed to just being another profile. So if you can show prospects that you understand their current situation, and how you might be able to help them in their current situation and evolve and achieve future long-term growth, I think that's going to be a lot more beneficial than just saying, I do X, Y, Z at these different roles. So if you're trying to target specific accounts, there's specific companies you want to work with, then you should be speaking to them about what's going on in their organization.
Right. And to me, I see all of this as a great opportunity. We have all this time, we're not commuting, we're not going to business meetings, we're not doing all of those things that we did 7 months ago. And so what are we doing with that time? We should be using it to reach out to people. I told somebody, I do an online networking group that we started in March, just because we wanted to see other people, right?
Yeah.
And we've added an educational component to it and things like that. But we were talking about things that we have discovered that we're doing that we might not do going forward. And I said in-person business meetings, especially the big networking ones where, we go, it's the same people every time. we know everybody who's there. You find your little clique, you talk to them, you watch the program, you drive home. Now, obviously, I'm showing that I'm not working those type of meetings right. But at the same point, it's, it really is, do I want to go back to doing that? Oh, look, I keep fading in and out. Gotta love that we're doing this on Friday. I'm just like fading away here. And so, I told him, I said, I'm spending much more time building my network online than in person. Do I miss seeing those people? Sure. I've been networking with them for 8 years, and to not see them, I miss them. Now, for the most part, I'm seeing what they're doing on Facebook. So we're seeing stuff like that. But yeah, it's for me, this is a great chance to go, you know what? I don't need to be doing all of that when I should be doing this. And so it's kind of that pivot to, hey, let's build our online networks and obviously be able to expand them outside of physical boundaries.
Absolutely. And just getting back to that, expanding our networks and stuff, I always, again, I probably said this word a lot, intention. I don't remember now, but if someone invites me to connect or I invite someone to connect, there has to be a reason, right?
Right.
There has to be, it's not just for me. I don't collect connections like candy or like stickers or whatever it is that people collect. I don't know. If there's no reason for me to be connected to them because we're not going to benefit one another somehow, then I don't connect to them. So that I think that's why the numbers game is so prolific or happening so much on LinkedIn, is because people are just connecting with anyone and everyone as opposed to thinking about why am I connecting with them? Why should they connect with me? Is there a reason there? I mean, it's not a friend collector. It's an actual business relationship.
Yeah. I know somebody who brags about the thousands, many thousands of people that he's connected with on LinkedIn. And I remember I kind of sheepishly put up my little hand one time and I said, but how many of those people know you? Oh, that was the wrong thing for me to say. Because I mean, for him, it really was the numbers game. And it was like, yeah, you don't know any of those people. More importantly, they don't know you. And so nobody's going to do business together, whether it's that, like I was saying earlier, introducing two friends that might benefit from connecting or actually doing business. You're not going to do any of that because you don't know any of those people. You were only aiming to get those high numbers. And I mean, he really is proud of having that. It's probably one of the profiles that has the most people you can possibly get. And it's like, why? And I've reached the point where, I probably should go through and weed mine back down. And now would be a good time to do that. And maybe it's that you reach out to them and say, you know what, I'm just going through my list of LinkedIn connections and reviewing who would be, beneficial. Think of better ways to say it than when I'm rambling on. But for one thing, if they don't respond, then okay, probably is a good time. But if they come back and say, well, hey Deb, I've been thinking about you too. Here's why we should stay connected. It might be a good time to kind of do that weed eating portion.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a popularity contest.
Right. It's not.
I mean, you can collect friends if you really want to, but I think other platforms are for that, other social platforms are for that, other networking platforms. And to LinkedIn, it's not, to me, it's not about reach. It's not about numbers. It's about relevance. So if you even look, I think I have maybe 500 connections, and I have a LinkedIn group that I've had for a couple of years, and there's only a couple of hundred people in them because I weed those out all the time.
500 and the right couple hundred.
Yeah, I weed them out periodically, and I also notice if they're not contributing value to the group, then they either get warned or kicked out of the group or something like that, because I don't play that game where I'm sending out spam or I'm sending out irrelevant things. I mean, I've had people send me personalized messages that are still spam. So you have to personal to the actual person, not personalized just because we're connected. I'm sending you this message to pitch me. Yeah.
Right. And it's funny because I do that on Facebook every once in a while where I go through, Facebook tells you every day, here's whose birthdays there are. And I always sit there and think, okay, I don't even know who this person is. So why would I tell them happy birthday? And, so I go to their profile and I look and it's like, okay, well, there's somebody here in Atlanta, so I should probably stay connected to them. But, they're not going to know if I unfollow them, unfriend them, whatever. They're clearly not going to care. Otherwise we would have, I would have known who they were. So, it's just clutter. When their posts might actually appear in my feed, I'm going, who is that person? What do I care about what they're posting about? And when we do that, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Facebook, any of the platforms, then, if we're making the crinkle face and going, why do I care? Then we probably shouldn't be connected to them, or we need to at least investigate why we connected in the first place. Was there a reason and somehow that got lost in the shuffle? And maybe we need to go through that again.
Yeah, maybe need to like reevaluate what
Mhm.
happened. Like how did you get connected and why did you get
Right.
connected and things like that.
Mhm.
And I think if you're more focused and more strategic about what you're
Mhm.
doing and think about every action that you take on these
Mhm.
platforms and before you do them, as opposed to just sending anything and
Right.
liking anything and commenting
Mhm.
generically, like you said before, great job,
Mhm.
great article, just to
Mhm.
get your name in the feed or
Mhm.
whatever. Um, People see through that. And
Mhm.
I know a lot of people get caught up with the algorithms and they think if they like a lot of stuff or if they comment
Mhm.
on a lot of stuff, they'll show up more. And what I've seen and what I've heard from other people that follow the algorithms more than I do, that you're kind of hurting your chances when you just
Mhm.
do like a click a like or just
Right.
say
Yeah, because
generic
it's
things.
clearly showing that you're not truly
Not
engaging.
engaged. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So if you're doing valuable or adding value to it,
Mhm.
then that takes,
Mhm.
I think the algorithm takes that into consideration. So
Right. And I mean, it does come back to the numbers. And as we said, it's got to be the right people that you're connected with. I love it when my clients are doing things where they're saying, well, we want you to have X number of people that like our pages by X date. And fortunately, we've gotten past the point where you could buy, because I hated that. You always knew when you had bought friends or fans or whatever it was,
followers,
because
yeah,
for the
yeah.
most part, excuse me, they weren't local. They weren't here in the United States, and they never interacted. So it was a total waste of time. They probably weren't even real people. And so I've always told my clients, no, we don't ever buy things like that. And in fact, I had one that was going to fire me because our numbers weren't good, and I said, no, our numbers are the right numbers. I don't care that we're not beating your competition. We've got the right connections.
Yeah, I think they look nice on a
Mhm.
spreadsheet when you say you have
Right.
hundreds
Mhm.
of thousands of followers and likers and connections.
Mhm.
But if you really dig down and actually research into
Right.
those numbers, what do they mean? What
Mhm.
is the ROI on them?
Mhm.
What are they bringing you any value? Are they
Right.
bringing you any
Mhm.
business? Are they moving your bottom line towards the
Mhm.
positive direction? Or are
Right.
they just sucking money because
Mhm.
you're worrying
Mhm.
about vanity metrics
Right.
versus actual revenue?
Right. Yeah. We look at things like click-through rates and all of those, and I tell them, okay, that's really what you care about, because they interacted, they truly interacted. They wanted more information. If it was just, hey, we're going to look at the pictures, whatever, they were wanting to deal with you a little bit more. So, we've been talking a lot about how, we win with connecting with the C-suite, and especially through using LinkedIn to really connect with people. And right now, to be protecting and expanding our accounts and client base that might be at risk. Do you have some specific stories that you can share, both positive and negative, where people, lost things, or more importantly, where they were able to build and solidify a relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a story that it's kind of like the before and before working with us,
Uh-huh.
when we work with them, and then like the results. So
Right.
we work with a longtime, a longtime client of ours is
Mhm.
a third party logistics provider, so a
Mm.
3PL. They're
Mhm.
based in Green Bay, and they specialize in distribution center management,
Mhm.
so warehouses and things. And then they have technology that they sell, which is warehouse management software or
Ah.
systems, and then
Mhm.
TMS, which is transportation management.
Mhm.
Um, and their biggest client was Procter and Gamble, so
Oh.
P&G. And they knew that it was someone that they wanted to protect because of their biggest client,
Right.
and they wanted to grow the account. But what they noticed is the accounts team or the customer success team was having discussions at the director level. So that was like middle of the,
Right.
I guess, the funnel, right?
Not the decision makers.
Not necessarily, yeah. More like the person that was implementing their
Right.
solutions, using it on a
And
daily
they might
basis.
give advice to the decision makers, but they weren't the ones signing those contracts.
Signing the contract, exactly. So the activities the conversations were about the activities that they were completing, basic general benefits, not about the gaps that the actual client filled for P&G and how it was positively impacting the entire business. So how was it impacting ops? How was it impacting employees, customers, finance, the whole thing? And because they weren't having the right conversations, customer conversations that were supported either by case studies or content, articles, any kind of messaging, they weren't proving unique value that was gained and where future opportunities, which is where the growth comes in, where the future opportunities lie. So our client wasn't able to drive top to bottom engagement. So they weren't able to have those conversations with those actual decision makers, like you said, the people that are signing the contracts. They didn't have access to those VPs and C-suite that they needed. And they heard from Procter & Gamble, who was their client, that they were Procter & Gamble was in talks with Ryder, who was a larger national competitor.
Right.
These people were just regional. They had close relationships with Ryder. So 3 years of having the wrong conversation led to P&G to basically tell them that they were going out to get requests for proposals at other different competitors. And they were most likely going to move to this larger, lower cost national provider because it was just going to be more economical for them.
Right. Makes sense.
So because this client was our biggest, or because this P&G was their biggest customer and they had the greatest revenue growth potential, they were, really scared about losing it.
Right.
So in order to overcome the relationship gaps, so they could compete with a larger competitor, the team decided to involve sales and take a personal account-based approach to marketing. So this was all happening. This conversation was basically before sales got involved, was happening at the marketing level. So they kicked it over to sales, so that's where we were focusing on building their profiles, I should say, their LinkedIn profiles, their content, their case studies, and personal messaging for the purpose of P&G and penetrating P&G.
Right.
So give you some examples of how we did this. For example, we worked with this SVP or Senior VP of Sales and Marketing. We worked with her profile, and we redid the copy. We spoke to about how 50% of 3PLs are under leveraging the warehouse, distribution, and transportation aspects of their business because they were focusing on cost rather than growth. And she discussed her 14 years of tenure at P&G so she was familiar with the organization. So she demonstrated that she understood the business, she knew their goals, she knew the culture, she knew how it worked internally. And then we added stories that were relevant to P&G to show how the limited visibility they were having into their supply chain from using Ryder in different aspects of their business was making, slow inventory turnover. So it was, affecting shipments. And she didn't just make the claims in the profile and just blanket claims. She actually had the proof to back it up, which is what, made this relationship go further. She proved how other 3PLs or third-party logistics providers focused on cost instead of getting a strong and accurate measure of how each party in the supply chain impacted each other and customer growth. So she proved how it impacted P&G personally, how it impacted every single part of the organization from the top down to show the entire company was being affected. So that helped to move the conversation forward. And we also, in doing that, we also created a case study specifically just for P&G. It was talking to them indirectly, I should say, because we don't name them. We didn't name them.
Right. Because that gets a little creepy.
Yeah, so, but it was meant to build, it wasn't meant to build credibility like a lot of case studies are.
Right.
It was designed for the selling conversation.
Right. They looked at it and they went,
this is
wait a minute, that sounds like us.
Exactly. So they were able to change the conversation around the gaps that existed, how they, why they existed, and then how the client was the only 3PL that they could use to fill those gaps. So it was built for that conversation. It was showing our client's positive impact on a key area of focus for P&G,
Mhm.
which is on time in full delivery,
Right.
meaning, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory what that means,
Mhm.
but the total value achieved in addition to where future ops lie. So they were showing them the big picture. It wasn't just a transactional
Mhm.
conversation. And once P&G's team understood the impacts, they asked our client to meet with the corporate VP
Mhm.
or the decision maker, which is someone they were trying to
Mhm.
get to.
Mhm.
And the stories were further validated to prove the case on hard costs versus soft
Mhm.
costs, so risk versus growth. So they
Right.
were able to show them that. And
Mhm.
that's, they had a client that was going to go to RFP or go
Mhm.
out to the bidding process, and they were able to, um, go from
Mhm.
cautioning that they were going to lose it to
Right.
another provider
Mhm.
to expanding conversations. And this was all because we did this uh, through profiles,
Mhm.
content, and then we use that same messaging through email, social, and
Mhm.
live conversations to prove the buying
Mhm.
committee how soft cost, risk reduction, and new growth would
Mhm.
quickly replace any reductions in the enterprise their competitor could offer. And it
Right.
turned into that they actually protected the account,
Mhm.
but they expanded it as well. So it was
Wow.
something that was very big for them because that was their
Mhm.
biggest moneymaker. So it
Mhm.
was a really big deal for them.
Right. Well, and what I love was that all of it, they looked at it, everything basically online, and their response was, "Tell me more." And I think that's where
That's the
people kind
difference.
of, they either give them everything, and people are like, "No, no, 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 no." Or they tease them with it. It's like, no, there, and it is kind of a fine line. When I work with people who are in the job market, I tell them, it's okay to redo your profile for a specific job that you're going on, to make sure that it's really talking, maybe they had 10 points, you must be able to do blah, 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 blah. It's okay to redo your profile to focus on blah, 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 blah. It gets a little tricky if you're being interviewed, if you're doing multiple interviews, but it's the same thing. You want them to read it and go, well, that sounds like us.
Tell me
So
more.
tell me more.
Exactly.
And I think people forget that that's the way that we need to be doing business, exactly the way that you're talking about, as business people, to build those partnerships, to continue them, to expand them. That's exactly what we need to be doing too.
Yeah, and you're letting the customer kind of guide the
Hmm.
relationship and guide the buying process,
Right.
the buyer's journey,
Hmm.
versus you pulling them through it, and
Hmm.
it kind of gets forced when you're pulling
Hmm.
them through it because you're basically just
Right.
pushing content down their
Hmm.
throat, and that's never a good
Right.
thing.
Well, and usually you've picked the wrong content. And so then that's where they're like, "No, I'm done. I'm over this." So
It's not
cool.
relevant to me.
Right.
Done.
Right. Well, oh my gosh, Kristina, we have, you see, this is why I set the timer, because we could be going forever. So tell me a little bit more about your company, and what specifically you do to work with people.
Sure, sure. We work with B2B companies,
Hmm.
typically SaaS, tech, logistics, 3PL
Hmm.
companies, and then the technology those companies
Okay.
offer. So you can learn more about that at
Hmm.
personalabm.com.
Hmm.
And we just recently, I guess in 2020,
Hmm.
we launched a education and community arm of the business called
Hmm.
Stop the Sales Drop, and we
Hmm.
have podcast articles and then kind of help people shift and
Hmm.
rebound, and the strategies they need to take. So I invite people to check out Stop the Sales
Hmm.
Drop and click on the on-demand training, and
Hmm.
they're going to see different offerings that we had. We had a
Hmm.
LinkedIn training where we had 20 different fireside chats and panels.
Hmm.
And if you click on Join Our Community, you can get access to our Reboot Friday
Hmm.
that's starting November 6th. And then every Friday, we're going to have about 1 to 2 panels on sales, marketing,
Cool.
and sales enablement
Hmm.
topics, just strictly B2B.
Hmm.
And so I invite everyone to check out stopthesalesdrop.com and click on Join Our Community to learn more.
Perfect. I love it. I'm looking on your website right now, and it's interesting that this was something that I'm, like with a lot of businesses, we were all thinking about, hey, we should do this, and then whoop, the pandemic hit. And so many businesses went, oh my gosh, we don't know what to do. But other businesses went, oh, hey,
We got
this
to
is an
pivot.
opportunity.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with it. That's the way we're supposed to be doing business. And so I love that you've done that. So again, it's stopthesalesdrop.com and personalabm.com. Now, if they want to reach you personally, how do they contact you?
The best way to reach me is to connect with me on LinkedIn and give
Mhm.
me a reason to connect. Don't send a generic message. Give me
Right.
some personal relevance to me.
At least
Um,
mention that you saw us on this program.
exactly. And please spell my name right.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
really easy. It's right
Mhm.
in
Oh, I
the
know.
little
I love it when
connect.
they don't because my name is Deborah. The second I get Debra, doesn't matter what they're offering.
It
I'm like,
says it
yeah.
right there on your
Mhm.
profile. I just looked at it. It even has
Mhm.
Deb's in quotation, so that's a
Yeah.
key to say that's what she likes to be
Mhm.
go by.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, I added that on purpose to see if people would do it.
Pick up on it?
Yep. And that's because it's automated. They're cut paste, cut paste, cut paste, cut paste.
Yeah, well, all I got to do is go to your website too.
Yeah.
You'll see that
Yeah.
It's Deb,
Or
Deb,
my
Deb.
favorite is I get Deborah in parentheses,
Oh,
Deb.
with the quote. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
I'm like, no, no. So cool. Well,
Mm.
this has been so much fun. And, I think we need to chat again in 6 months or so to see where things have, settled down. We were talking before, what our new normal is, or as I fondly call it, our normal. It's like Garfield the cat had a cousin cat named Normal or something like that. But, because I think businesses really are going to have to shift how they're doing business. It's going to be much more online, much more research based, where we aren't going to be going in-person meetings, whether it's at Starbucks or whether it's a conference or whatever. And so we're going to have to learn how to do more and more exactly of what you were talking about. So this is great.
Thank you so much for having me. I just remind everyone to do their due diligence and be relevant and personal.
Perfect. I love it. Well, I am Deb Creer. I've been having a great time talking with Kristina Jaramillo. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.